When you hear the phrase tech industry, what comes to mind? Chances are it's images of male founders, Silicon Valley boardrooms, and maybe those hoodie-wearing coders. But here's what's often left out. Women have always been a part of tech. Yes, from the start. Yet today, they remain underrepresented, underpaid, and underestimated in one of the world's most powerful industries. On this episode of Untangle, we're diving into the global push to close the gender gap in technology, what's widely known as the Women in Tech movement. We'll explore how governments, companies, and grassroots initiatives across continents are working to bring more women into tech, and why this isn't just about fairness, it's about innovation, equity, and sustainable growth. We'll also tackle some persistent misconceptions, such as if there's a pipeline problem, are women not interested in coding? And what does inclusion really mean beyond hashtags and panels? From coding bootcamps in Nairobi to tech policy in Brussels, this is a global conversation and it's happening now. This is Untangle. I am Amadin Ubewe. Welcome back. All right, we've been joined by a guest to do justice to this issue. Her name is Tochi Ifeanyi. She is the founder of Outsidee, an entertainment tech company, a budding one, helping people discover and engage with local culture. She's also the former chief financial officer of Startup Campus Nigeria, where she helped university founders raise capital and also performed or participated in hackathons where she emerged as one of the winners. Tochi, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much. We have a lot to discuss today. And while I was making my intro, it just occurred to me that while doing a program on women in tech, what if my guest wasn't a woman? That would have been very disastrous.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot in panels where you have 5 men, 1 woman. So let's start from what that phrase really means. People think it just means diversity hires, boot camps. Can we go deeper into it, the sort of historical perspective and what it really means, other than the common things people associate with it, women in tech?
Women in tech, I would say, means so many things, both to me personally and how it's meant to be viewed. Let me start from the fact that women have always been in tech, because people have this perception that, women were never there. And then we're bringing them in. Okay, we have Ada Lovelace. That's the first female programmer at all. And she led the way for other women. And women in tech is not this is a movement we're starting now. It's something that should have always been. Because tech is about innovation, it's about changing the society. Tech moves our future. Tech brings innovation. And you cannot say that there's innovation in a space that only considers one part of the community, that only takes the ideas of one part of the community. So women in tech isn't necessarily just about, adding women, is adding everyone in innovation, adding everyone to the future. And another reason why I kind of like the phrase is that it doesn't say woman in tech, it says women, because there's a lot of firsts when it comes to women. We have the first woman to do this and the only woman to do that. And we're trying to push for a society where those things are not said anymore. So she is a part of this. We have women, multiple people in the space, and not just the first woman or the only woman. We need to phase that out. I think enough time has passed for us to know that this is now a space where men and women must coexist, because we all need to be part of the future.
Indeed. So let's reference a report recently by UN Women, the Gender Snapshot, that says about 22% of AI workers globally are women. What do you say about this number? And generally, what do you say about the gap that exists?
There's actually a huge gap. And let me even say the fact these numbers this is worldwide. Before we even go into Africa, it's the numbers are worse. But one thing I would say is that the gap actually exists, and if you're in the tech space, you would understand that even with those 22 women that are 22%
yeah.
that are in AI, you notice they're all supporting. Let me call it the supporting cast. They are never the main people. They are never the founders. They are always the people that helped in building something. They are never the ones actually doing it. I'm not trying to generalize, because obviously there are women out there doing what they are doing, but most of the times those women are just that little percentage. And it's very sad, especially in a world that claims to be inclusive, with all the message that we are pushing. It's those numbers actually make me feel so bad, and sometimes it's very scary, because there are many other young girls that want to go into tech, and then they walk into the room and they don't see people like them, and they don't see people to learn from, because the experience of a man in tech is not the same experience of a woman in tech. And having more women to lead you through it is very important.
All right, maybe before we delve into more issues around the initiative, what would you say are some of the things that have been done to promote this? There's a popular, I guess I should call her a tech founder, Debbie Sterling. She spoke about how she came to create her company. It's basically trying to get women into STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And she made a book that has to do with engineering, basically. And she pitched it, and people said, girls don't like engineering, girls don't like this and that. And she continued, and she was able to get it out there. So the question is, what other things are there that encourages or brings women in? What are the strategies that this global initiative has, done? And if any you've witnessed personally yourself?
So the truth is, I wouldn't lie, there are a lot of organizations now that, have women funding or funding for female founders, and boot camps for, women in STEM, women in tech. And they are doing amazing work. There's so many organizations that do this. There are some banks that are doing, a lot of Nigerian banks are trying to have those programs, and within those programs specialize in getting women on board. The UN is always doing something like that in their different fields. And a lot of organizations now have trainings for women as well. And this is all amazing. What I want to say with this is, those things are just, let me say, it just touches the surface. There's so much to be done. Personally, for me, what has helped me a lot in my whole journey is having mentors, but not just any type of mentors, female mentors. Because the truth, like I mentioned, a man's experience in tech is not the same as a woman. So if we could, it still boils down, it's a pipeline. We get more women in, and those women that get in bring more women in as well. So that is, I feel, the strongest and the easiest way to get them on board, because we could have all the press tours in the world and have all the panel sessions. But if we don't hold people's hand to come in, it's scary. Some people, on their own, they decide to go in, and they don't see people like them. Their voices are silenced. They try to do something, and they hear it's okay. It's like, we want you to be here, but we don't really want you to be here. Be present so that, we can say, there are women here, but don't talk. You want to be seen and not heard. It happens a lot in many spaces that are male dominated. But what we need, or what I feel like we need to encourage more, is mentorship from other female founders. So once one person gets in, they pull other people in. It's like a network, and those people pull more women in. And I feel that's one of the best, most effective strategies, because it's not just to get in the door. It's how do I stay in, and how do I make a name for myself when I'm in there.
But can we point out that Women in Tech is a global initiative? Is it something that is localized to regions?
It's a global initiative, and slowly but surely it's becoming localized. I know in Nigeria, as we're here, I've had many initiatives I've worked with, and I've been with or joined or seen with my friends and other women I know in this industry. But one thing I would say is, it hasn't gotten to the grassroots. It hasn't gotten deep into the grassroots. Like I said, we're still at the surface.
What would you say are some of the barriers that's holding that back?
first of all, the perception.
Okay.
Let me use that. Stereotypes. I whenever I did anything, or in most spaces I would walk into, when people see me, I create content and all, people will see me and be like, oh, I don't think you're interested in tech. You don't look like the kind of person that is. Do you know how many young girls they tell that to? How many actually interested young girls they tell that to? And it might not be said with any ill intention, but that has already crushed, not necessarily directly crushed those dreams, but those messages, those words go back to these girls. So it's not as if they are pushing that girls shouldn't be part, but there's already a preconception that these women aren't cut out for this. Now, in those spaces, even when there are women there, they still expect those women to to conform to certain standard. They should look a little bit nerdy. They should look like they don't care about other things. They don't care about their appearance. If the girl doesn't look like that, then this one, she's not serious. But how does that affect the work that she does? How does that affect her ability to perform? And that is just one barrier. The stereotype around women, that women are not interested. Women are, feminine girls don't really do science and STEM, which is all not true. I'm a huge nerd. I'm a math nerd. I loved math. Even back in school, I was an art student, but I did further math. That's how much I loved math. But then I still, till this day, even back in secondary school, I was called in that, you're an art student and you're a girl. I think you should drop further maths.
So there are also cultural aspects to this, where even when young girls express interest in STEM, they are, being, told to find other interests.
Oh, for sure. Like, but exactly what I said, they were like, why are you doing further maths? Was I failing it? No. Was I doing well? Yes. But it was like, you can't be two. Women are always put in a box. They can't be, more than what people define them as. And now this is even, I would say this is even for someone that has access to certain opportunities and access to education. Let's even go back, because one of the things that I've been doing is working with NGOs as well. There are girls that don't even get to access to education. And even when they do, they get access to the bare minimum. Not even because, maybe we don't have people to teach them science or STEM related courses, but then it's they are girls, let's just give them, even at those grassroots levels of trying to educate girls, there's still that bias, like, we're trying to educate young girls in the rural areas, let's teach them only arts. Why? What's stopping you for saying let's teach them STEM as well and let them be the one to decide? It's this bias that has existed for a while, but I think time has come that we need to close that chapter and really open our minds and be more inclusive to everyone.
All right, that's fair enough. But I also get something from what you're saying now, where founders always don't tend to be the ones who are doing the coding themselves. You can't be a founder without being a web developer or something like that. So how do you think women can navigate that?
Okay, I'm a prime example of that. I studied accounting and I started building my startup back in school. I have no STEM background. I didn't do science, software engineering, none of that. That is why collaboration is very important. In the tech space, collaboration, partnerships, team building is very important. And this is why we need more women on board. I mentioned to you earlier that for my startup, I was trying to build a whole tech team. And I put out applications. I got 150 applications. And genuinely, I wanted to get female developers on board. I wanted a Flutter developer, a Python backend developer. And in 150 applications, only 3 were women. So now, how do I give access when there aren't even people there? It was very mind-blowing to me, because when I was in school, I did see a lot of, women in software engineering, although you cannot compare those numbers to the guys. And I think that was me facing, this is not data that I'm reading online. This was data that I faced. And at the end of the day, I had male, only guys on my tech team, because I don't even have female developers to choose from. That is where
That's the gap.
That's the huge gap. So there's 147 people, guys, and only 3 women in my whole application. It was, let me say, mind blowing to me, and it really opened my eyes to see this gap is bigger than we're reporting it to be. There's even missing data. So now we have a lot of stats globally. If you in the UN women, they are always reporting the stats, but there's still a lot of missing information in the regional areas, in the communities. That's why I'm saying online and with the media, it seems like we're making progress, but we really haven't made as much progress as we think that we have.
All right, maybe you hold that thought.
Okay.
We'll go on a break. When we return, we'll delve more into, more on the gaps and again solutions. We really want to find ways to solve this issue.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go on a break now. When we return, the program continues.
Culture connects us beyond borders. It's a bridge between traditions, creativity, and the future.
Culture is alive, shaping identities and communities every day.
Art tells stories of resilience and vision.
Artists blend tradition with innovation.
Cultural preservation creates sustainability and empowerment.
Culture evolves and adapts.
Music and dance unites communities through movement.
And right here, in the heart of our cities, artists and creators are keeping these cultures alive.
On Culture Cove, let's explore,
Celebrate
and preserve the arts and culture that define us. Welcome back. Now, off camera, I think you mentioned before where there's access but there's no power, something like that. So, what does full women inclusion look like? A complete one that's the goal that we're all driving for with women in tech. What does it look like? The ideal situation?
Ideally, first things first is not having just a woman in the space, but having multiple women in a space. You walk into a room, let's say there are 10 men and there are 10 women, and it doesn't seem new to see a woman there. It doesn't seem so special to see a woman in the room with you. Another thing is funding. Enough funding given to women-led startups or women in the space. I did my research and only 2% of VC funding actually goes to women-led startups out. So a whole 98 is going to only one demographic. In a world where we are building for everyone, and in the tech space, the reason why it's scary, I would use the word, is because tech is for everyone. Tech is the future. Tech dictates the life that we're living. So we're building in a space where only one demographic is funded greatly. Another thing that would show true inclusion is when you don't have to think too much before you can mention a women-led startup, and it doesn't become some big thing to celebrate. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, of course, there's this startup and there's that startup, and this is led by women, this is led by men, and this has multiple women in their team, and it's normal. It's not a thing of, wow, we're so happy, but it's a thing of, it becomes the norm in society. Another very important thing is women not just being supporters, but being leaders. Like I mentioned, access and power. So now we're in the phase where, because it has become a very important topic, women in tech, women inclusion, women have a little bit more access. But being able to walk through the door does not mean you can stay in the room. So women are able to enter, and then they face different dynamics of having to work with a team. And then in those teams, they're still looked down upon. Nobody is taking their ideas into considerations. And in that space, they're trying to learn, but nobody wants to take them seriously. So it's entering the door, being funded. Despite being a man or being a woman, you are funded for what you are building. And then going a further step in creating a conducive working environment where they can collaborate, where they can have career growth and not just this, they're stagnant in one place. Okay, I'm working in tech and basically I'm doing the same thing over and over again. My career isn't expanding. So I feel like when those things start to happen, then truly we can say, yeah, we're at a phase where there's full inclusion in the tech community.
All right, so let's talk about STEM and getting girls into it. Because I say girls because I want to start from the bottom. It's women in tech, we know that, right? But it's obviously it's girls that become women, and the interest or lack thereof begins at an early stage. What are the strategies you would say that can bring more women into tech? I go back to the TED Talk by Debbie, like I mentioned before, the founder of Goldie Blocks, where she says at the beginning she asks, "Who is close your eyes and imagine who an engineer is," and then she asks, "How many of you saw a woman in your head?" It was very rare, and then she mentioned something you've mentioned here too, where even when a woman is seen, it has to be perhaps a masculine looking woman who is dressed in clothes that are typically associated with men. So how do we drive interest from the start for science, tech, mathematics, engineering, for more women to be there? Because the women who do get there, they all say the same thing. I was the only one, we're just two, we're three, and I had to be one of the boys, stuff like that. So where do we start from for the girls?
Okay, so the first thing is, I would say there are two ways. Is intentional education and also strategic representation. So intentional education is in actually giving women the resources they need to learn in order to work in these fields. Because the word that they use to disqualify a lot of women is that they are not qualified enough. And it's not that they can't be qualified enough. They are not given resources to be qualified enough. They only know the bare minimum. Like I mentioned that in my whole journey, I have actually spoken with a lot of male founders, trying to, learn a thing or two. But it is the female founders and the females in tech that have given me not just this surface level advice or just say, just do this and you just need to do this, but taking their time to give me a blueprint that works. Now, that is the kind of education girls need, not just this surface level or just learn this and learn that, but like intentional education. Sometimes you don't know what you like until you learn about it. Now, in secondary school, let me start with secondary school because that's when people start to deviate into sciences and arts. At that point, a lot of the career training or, when students decide if they are going to be science students or art students, there's a lot of bias there. And the female students is like, if you're going to be a science student, just be prepared to, struggle and all of that. You will have an easier life being an art student, but that's not true. Now, at that point is where intentional education is needed. Giving them telling them the truth as it is. And not telling them the truth as, for boys usually or girls usually, is for everybody, this is the playing ground. We have a fair playing ground, then pick. Now, I have a community called Glow Up Diaries. I have a lot of amazing people. There's for youths, but let me say 90% women on that community. We're like 2,700.
The men are marginalized.
It was open to everyone. They didn't join. But the women, that's one thing that shocked me. I opened it to youths. I marketed it for youths. But the way the women flocked in, why? They all want better for themselves. And there's a common denominator. I'm scared to go into tech. I'm scared to work a remote job. I'm scared to learn this. I feel like I wouldn't understand it. Now, this is, they've internally believed that I wouldn't be good at this. When, like on our platform, what we do is we do online trainings, we do webinars, we share courses. And recently we launched a website to help people find opportunities. So after you've been trained, you can go ahead and find an opportunity, let's say a grant or, a scholarship for you to learn more or even attend seminars, conferences. And when they get equipped and they go out and they realize, oh, there's nothing here that I actually couldn't do. This is something, funny enough, I really like this. Recently, a lady reached out to me that I was explaining to her how to pitch her ideas to like investors or to pitch it at, and she won. Do you know what she studied? Mass comm. She felt, this is not for me. But when she was given resources and she actually went through it, she realized this is something that I can do. Now, on the other hand, I mentioned is strategic representation. Media plays a huge role. There's this lady I follow on Instagram. I can't remember her name right now. She's an astronaut and she likes wearing a pink or purple astronaut suit. And she's so amazing because do you know how many little girls want to be astronauts? Because she's not just this tomboy astronaut, she's the girly astronaut. Now, they see themselves in that. Now, when you see, this goes back to building tech tools. There are these tools that we build, there are these systems that we build that only consider one, even in design, it only considers one demographic. So automatically, the other demographic that doesn't resonate with those things don't feel included. Now, if we see more women in tech being the women that they are, they don't need to be any other thing. They don't need to adapt to what men look like. It's going to trickle down into the next generation of women. They feel backed up. Like I mentioned, female mentors can help bring in more women into the space and really change how women interact in the tech community.
Fair enough. So I guess my next question will be, even though we've already talked about a number of these things, is are there any misconceptions that you'd like to debunk about women in tech?
Misconceptions. I have to think about this a little. Any misconceptions about women in tech?
Or perhaps I can give you a hint about some that maybe you can confirm if they are misconceptions or not. People feel as though the movement is now. I mean, I playfully said it earlier. Obviously, I didn't mean that, but people are now trying to make the point that it is now men that are being marginalized, and that is it even really necessary to have a woman in tech? Isn't it automatically exclusionary for a certain demography as well?
I love that you brought this up because this is what we discussed at the UN recently when we're talking about innovations in bridging the gender inequality. And in that room, we had men and women to discuss the topic. It was very great to see people's mind. And this thing kept being brought up that the more you do women-based this, if you do women programs, when you do women in tech, you're now excluding the young boys. The young boys now don't get all those things. Someone once said to me, you should have raised a lot of money. Do you know how many women funding programs I see? Now, these are conceptions based on opinion. Like I mentioned earlier, at the end of the day, upon all these women things, only 2% of VC fundings go to women-based startups and 98% go to men. If you go back to the data will let you know that upon all these things, men are still not anywhere close to being marginalized. The thing is...
So just to add to that, it means women in tech is not a threat to men.
Not in any way. It's not a threat to men. Let me explain why. If there is a building that already had 100 men and every day 5 new men are going in, now because we've opened a separate door just so that women can come in, it's not closing the first door and it's not telling the 100 men inside to go out. We're now trying to just add women to it. But they feel like that door is threatening them, but it's really threatening no one. If anything, that one door is not enough because there are already 100 men and there's still a door that lets them walk in. So that is, women in tech is not a threat to men. Women in tech is not marginalizing men. Creating systems that support women is because women are already, let me say, the minority in this instance. Men are not the minority here. So the system is built for them and by them. What we're trying to do is to add women to it. So it's not threatening anyone. And if anything, it's not even enough. It hasn't worked hard enough to even bring in enough women. So of course, it's not stopping men. And from the data, we can tell that men are still leading this industry and still getting the most out of this industry. Women are just scratching the surface.
All right, so I think we'll end it with this. Your advice to, because we're talking about what, okay, just let me make it two questions in one. First of all, what do you think governments, major organizations can do to help this movement? And on the flip side, what do you have to say to the young girl out there or the young woman out there who has an interest? So this way, we're talking about the personal and the broader context of policies and all of that, and how it helps.
Okay. So for the government, one thing I would really like to see is not just a random initiative set all this for women, but very intentional initiatives. Like I mentioned, don't just set up an initiative and have some people running it and just managing it. Get the women that are in the tech space to come into those initiatives and pick people along. Now they do these initiatives, 300 women apply, 100 get accepted, only 50 really benefits from it. At the end of the day, only 5 people truly use all those resources. And that's because they're like, oh, join, and you should carry yourself along through it all. Now, if we have the women that have gone through this process, that have found their way to navigate the tech industry, come in and they are supported, they are funded, and then join these initiatives from the grassroots up, we'll be able to get more women in there. We'll also be able to get more women inspired to, even if it's to do it by themselves in there. That's one thing the government can do in all of this. And even down to schools. Another thing is back in school, when there's that deciding factor of arts and science, we need to drop those stereotypes that, it's not really, the sciences aren't really for girls, and allow everyone to be given the same playing field to actually choose and actually be open to it. And if anything, we could encourage more girls. Oh, I noticed you're good at math and you're good at physics. Okay, we'll push you. Try it. Let it be that you tried, you didn't like it, then you go do what you want to do. That's another thing we could take down into our schools. So at early stages, we actually get these young girls to be interested, so that later on, when the other support comes from initiatives and funding, they have a good foundation to start with. And to every young girl out there, one thing I would say is this: we're in a rapidly moving society and we're evolving quickly. So don't feel that you are left behind. And there will be hurdles. You can't avoid it at this point. But know that the only way to overcome them is if all of us keep going.
Okay.
And if we all keep moving.
Indeed.
So take your dream seriously and keep pushing it no matter what.
Thank you so much, Tochi. It's been a pleasure, and it's good to hear from you and to hear your story. Actually, we'll be following you. You're a founder now, and obviously all founders get at the end of the day, whether they intend to or not, they become lessons for those coming behind them. So we do hope the story turns out well. And the global initiative of women in tech is something that grows to an extent where it just becomes normalized, and It's not even an initiative anymore. It's just something it's just life.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So that's our round of the program for today. I do hope you've been more enlightened about what it entails when we talk about women in tech. Do join us next time on Untangle. We'll break down more issues, debunk misconceptions, and simplify issues for your understanding. Bye for now. I am Amadine Obewe.